Hello and welcome to Geoscope with me and Ollie Bowler Hatman. How you doing, Ollie? Are you all right,
I'm
mate?
all right.
Yeah?
I'm doing all right so far.
Yeah? You feeling all right? Oh, press the subscribe button instead of my button. Oh, well, never mind.
Oh.
And subscribe. You should definitely subscribe. Big shout out to Richard Grumpy Git and Chris C, Robert Smith. We've also got Alex French in the chat. We've got Pete's Music and others. If you'd like to join them, do what I just did. Press the subscribe button. But, mean to do it rather than my name, which was what was supposed to come up then. So yes, we're going to get straight into it. We've got loads to get through tonight. I didn't want to concentrate too much on what the hell is going on in America, but it is so much affecting the rest of the world that I reckon that we've got to sort of mention it anyway. So
yeah, I think the idea is we start with what happened with the Munich Security Conference, and then essentially we just go from there. Because this is I've been doing a video about this all week. I keep on saying it. This will have consequences for quite some time, unfortunately. Yes. Not all of them good.
No, none of them
not
good.
All of them good.
None of them good, mate. None of them good. Can I just have a little bit of kudos? Did you see the thumbnail for this show tonight? Did you see it?
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, I've done over 1,000 of these thumbnails for this channel. And yes, it did look like it only took me 5 minutes to put together. It did actually took me 5 minutes to put together, but it works on so many different levels. Because the talk that JD Vance gave was actually in Munich, where the Munich Putsch took place in 1923, for which Hitler went to jail.
Should we start with those speeches? Yes. Not just JD Vance's, but Pete Hegseth's as well. Yeah. Both have very worrying security implications when it comes to Europe on this, unfortunately.
This is the Munich Security Conference, and he stands up and he says, do you know what the biggest threat to Europe is? It's not China, it's not Russia, it's trans people using the toilets. It's a made-up story about some guy who was just innocently praying at the side of the road, and then the police came and put him in solitary confinement for 17 years.
Yeah. It's unbelievable that he went and said this, to be honest. I mean, JD Vance's speech was an attempt to bring essentially what is American culture war politics to a European audience. And the Conservatives have tried it a number of times over here. It's never imported well. Yeah. It's never even imported that well, really, onto a European stage, to be honest. And it went down like an absolute Led Zeppelin. Yeah. I mean, if you watch the video and you hear people clapping, it's like
6 people enthusiastic.
Yeah, that's the volume of clapping in this room full of people. It is.
But you know what gives me hope as well in all this? You know, it is quite dire, but that reception, if he had been met with rapturous applause, I'll be shitting myself right now. I'll be like, oh God, it's got to take out. But he wasn't. He didn't get the reception that he would have got if he'd made that speech at the Russian Duma or in front of the Republic faithful and the MAGA dickheads. He made it to a bunch of people who are like, what are you on about? Which I think is the prevalent attitude of most Europeans. If you have a look at any surveys done on what British people or what European people think of Trump, they think he's a fucking idiot because, you know, they're slightly less invested. They're one step away from him, and all they can see is the negative things that he's done. You know, like committing crimes, raping women, mounting a coup against the American government, all this kind of stuff. And we're not fed an unleavened diet, because I'll use that because James O'Brien likes using that phrase, an unleavened diet of Fox News every night, which unfortunately for the older generation in America is their main news source. The tabloids are bad enough over here, but at least you need to be able to read to understand what's got in the tabloids.
Yeah, I think, honestly, Europeans are a lot more news savvy. I think they pay a lot more attention than certainly Americans do to politics. That's definitely for sure. I also think definitely in Europe we have a lot more better media environment.
Just better.
Than certainly
we're just better
America.
People, Ollie. Let's just face it. Let's just say it. Let's just say we're just better. Sorry, Mikey. Maybe watching this. Sorry to all my American friends.
So yeah, so there was the JD Vance speech, which pretty much said,
Yes.
the biggest problem you have is um, the Romania comment was, I think, the worst because he basically
Yes.
said, Romania cancelled their elections because of some quote
Tweets.
perceived Russian interference,
No.
and you're like, what?
It was actual Russian
Yeah, no, this was
interference.
actual Russian interference. The Romanian Constitutional Court has presented this, and they've gone over the evidence. Russia bought hundreds of thousands of social media ads
Yeah.
to target Romania during their recent election, which has caused them now to annul that result,
Yeah.
and they are now calling another one to happen. So you can still vote for the exact same people as you could last time the one was cancelled. It's just that this time they are making sure that there's going to be no Russian interference this time.
Yeah.
Which again is absolutely right for them. So two there's only really two options I can think of JD Vance of what happened here. Either A, he's an absolute fool and an idiot who has not listened to the brief on this in Romania, or has and didn't understand it.
Yeah.
There's only two ways you can go there. And what's worrying, of course, is and why that speech has been, I think, taken quite seriously, is if Trump pops his clogs, this guy takes over, and he is probably going to be the guy who's running in 4 years' time.
Yeah.
Like,
He
I
won't
can
win.
guarantee you now,
He won't
this will
win.
be the Republican nominee,
He won't win,
like
though.
without a doubt.
He won't win. Plus, I don't think they're going to have an election in 4 years' time.
Uh, I think that'll be I think this will be the candidate for the Republican Party. And what the worrying thing is, of
If they have an
course,
election.
yeah, if I think they will.
If King
Um,
Trump allows them, if King Donny the First allows them, if God Emperor Donny the First allows them to permits the hoi polloi to have an election, permits the plebs to vote. But if he does do that, it will be a Putin style job where he knows he's going to win.
hmm.
A Mugabe special.
The Mugabe special.
We're having a Mugabe special election. There's only one candidate, and the candidate is Mugabe. Yeah.
Oh,
Someone said in the chat about Vance's joke about Greta Thunberg went down like a lead balloon.
yeah.
Yeah. Greta Thunberg, who famously is anti-Semitic because she once did a video with an octopus, one of those reversible octopuses that's like
Oh,
smiling, and then you turn it inside out and it's frowning.
yeah.
She had one of them behind her, and that meant she was a massive anti-Semite. That the same people who said she was an anti-Semite for doing that, the Anti-Defamation League in America, said that specifically Elon Musk wasn't a Nazi for doing a Nazi salute.
Mm.
It's all in the messaging, really, isn't it?
Oh, well, speaking of messaging, like wasn't the only speech that happened.
No. We also had Hegseth.
Oh, Jesus. I
Hegseth.
think Hegseth was even worse than JD Vance's, because JD Vance's, if you look at it in the context, this was him not appealing to the audience that was in the room. This was him doing a speech for people in America, to the MAGA faithful, essentially.
Yeah.
That's who his audience was.
Roasting
it wasn't
Europe.
the people sat in front of him.
No.
Hegseth, on the other hand, who is the defense minister for the US, basically went, okay, Europe, you've now got to shoulder your own security responsibilities. You've now got to pay more for your security. And if, let's say, there is an attack on a NATO ally, we're not so sure we'll respond to Article 5.
Yes. Which is the article about one for all and all for one. If one member of NATO is invaded by, say, Russia, all the other members come in and help them fight the
an attack
Russians
on one
off.
is attack on all.
Yeah.
And that is the key underpinning for NATO was is and always has been Article 5.
And NATO's always been an anti-Moscow organization. It is there to stand up against Moscow's imperialistic ambitions. That's why it was invented in the first place. So accusing members of NATO of Russophobia is like, you know, accusing people in the Pokemon League of liking to play Pokemon. Yeah, that's the reason we're here, dickheads. Like, what? Wow. So yeah, it was also abandoning our key values in Europe. It was also the suppression of free speech. It was also to do with blaming migrants for everything. And he compared our European democracies, established European democracies, with authoritarian regimes. And it was just like, what? How do you work that out? Yeah. And but one thing that keeps me positive about what's happening in America, it may fall to fascism. They may not have an election for a decade or however long Trump lasts. However, it's not quite the same as North Korea. It's not quite the same as Russia. It's not quite the same as Saudi Arabia, in that America has experienced democracy. Flawed democracy, perhaps. All democracies are flawed to some extent. But I can't see the powers that be in America being able to subdue the spirit of millions and millions of Americans who have grown up knowing something else.
Yeah.
If North Korea is all you've ever known, it's easier to keep you in North Korea. If Saudi Arabia is all you've ever known, it's easier to keep you in
like I say, the leopards Saudi are eating Arabia, people's faces now.
Yes.
I think you talked about this last night on Stateside.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's starting to bite back some of these people. The one that's going around at the moment is someone who was working, I believe, for a US department, and is begging Donald Trump to give him his job back because he's not one of those wasteful workers. He's totally one of the hard-working workers.
He voted for Trump to make him, and he's like, "I've worked here for 15 years, and I'm very efficient."
Yeah,
it's like, hey, Slim. I've got all your records, and I've come to see you live, and I've written all these letters, and you never respond to me. Why didn't you respond to me, Slim?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're right, but they are still in the minority. The majority of even Trump voters who have been fucked over by the Trump regime are still drinking the Kool-Aid, mate. They are. You've got a survey came out yesterday, which showed that amongst Democrat voters who voted for Hillary in 2016 or voted for Joe Biden in 2020, in 2024 voted for Trump, their approval of Trump has gone up. Mind blowing. So I've just broken Ollie. Come back, Ollie. Sorry, mate. But like I say, it can't last forever. One Angry Pagan, thank you very much for the super chat. When I talked about Europe, including us, needing to rearm, literally a couple of years ago, I was mocked. The US is no longer a trusted ally. I was correct. Yeah, you were correct. I didn't mock you. I wouldn't have said you were daft for thinking that, especially in the wake of what Russia has done invading Ukraine. Not just in the big invasion in 2022, but the invasion in 2014. Like, it's clear. And their interference in the Scottish referendum, in the Brexit fraudulendum, in our British politics, in our British elections. Boris Johnson putting the son of a KGB agent in the House of Lords, Lord Lebedev's son, running the Lord Lebedev is Lord Lebedev running the Evening Standard paper, filling it with anti-European, pro-Russia bile. Andrew Ray, Graham, my super chat this morning about ChatGPT and Grok calling Elon out for criminal actions. You said you would discuss it later, but you've run out of time. YouTube, I Ask AI did interview. And W. James is just saying they're fucked, which I had to approve because it had the sweary word in it. But I have approved it, W. James. You can now say that. It's fine. One Angry Pagan has covered the demonetization of this video. Thank you, One Angry Pagan, for allowing us to swear freely on this channel. But yeah, I realized something today, Ollie, while I was while I was doing the show. I was talking about this morning, the morning brew. I realized that if Elon Musk gets all of the IRS records that he's going for in America, that's got my details in on it as well. Because I am a YouTube partner and I had to fill out a form for the IRS to say that I don't actually work in America, or I just work for an American company, well, a subsidiary of an American company in Ireland. Yeah, they've got my national insurance number, my address, and my bank details.
Where is it? GDPR, maybe? GDPR complaints.
Yeah. No, I'm going to.
The United States.
I know someone who works for the Information Commissioner's office, so I might bring this up because this is definitely sanctionable. I want to see Elon Musk sanctioned. We can't bring sanctions against the US. Obviously, economically speaking, that wouldn't be a great idea, but sanctions against Musk, banning Twitter, banning sales of Tesla cars in this country, it can be done like that. Labour have a 200-seat majority. They can do anything they want. And I think they should want to do this as punishment for him hacking into our personal records.
Just look at if he's got any government contracts and just cancel them. Just say, oh well, you're clearly part of the US government now. Conflict of interest. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just cancel them.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, just go back to the Munich beer hall putsch. Did you see what I did? Putsch with eyeliner, like the REM song. Putsch with that. Oh. Works on so many levels. If you know the song and you know the reference and okay. Anyway, he wears eyeliner. Or what's it called? Is it Republican makeup?
Guy
they
liner.
call it? Republican eyeliner.
Yeah, guy liner.
Guy liner. Oh god.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus. Yeah, he's a little bit. He looks like the kid who could see ghosts. He could see dead people. He looks like him, but like grown up and wearing eyeliner. Anyway, I'm sure you will see some dead people pretty soon, being who he is. But yeah, what I think shocked. Are you surprised that the European audience was so shocked by all this? Like,
no. I think if you look at where after Trump won, what the reaction pretty much had been from Europe was, we're going to take a wait and see attitude, and we are hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. That is seemed to be the attitude, because I think, especially really since Trump's come into office, the unpredictability of Trump has gone off the scales. You just don't know what he's going to do. I mean, the Gaza comments are a perfect example. That seems to have literally been a complete unprompted comment that he's made. They've tried to walk it back, and then he repeated the comment in front of the King of Jordan, and it's like, well, okay, is he serious about that, or is it something that he said off the top of his head, and that they're trying to desperately, trying to wield it back in, saying, this isn't a good idea,
Yeah.
So there is that to be said about it, but the fact that this is being delivered not by Trump, but by JD Vance and Pete Hegseth, is showing that there is now a fundamental shift in American foreign policy towards Europe and defense policy towards Europe as well. And this was part of the response that, a lot of we saw. I mean, we saw, I think immediately, I think it was Schultz, I believe, the German guy who responded to him. I can't remember if his name off the top of my head now, but I think it was Schultz. Pretty much responded to him like immediately after that speech, and it was easily one, I think, the speech that needs to be said right at that time.
Yeah.
It was a rebuke of the comments that were made, and to basically say, hey, look, we are allies in this. If you want to do something, don't just randomly announce it and shock us. Come and talk to us about it. We are your allies. We are here. That transatlantic relationship exists for a reason, for lots of historical reasons. We know why that exists. Don't go, throwing the baby out with the bathwater over this. Come speak to us, come talk to us on this. So that was a very good speech, a good response to him.
Yeah.
It was pretty strong. And I think it was what was needed at that moment. The bigger, like I said, the bigger one was, of course, Pete Hegseth, basically questioning Article 5, and of course, commitments or US commitments to, of course, Europe, and of course to Europe and NATO as well. So, though that I would say probably had the bigger reaction, I think it was because JD Vance came on immediately after, did this balmy, ludicrous speech that people are like, oh right, they actually do mean what they say, because no one really took Hegseth seriously, because Hegseth has nothing to do with defense. He was like a National Guard captain, and then he ran like a charity to do with a military or like funding for something like that, for like, and he ran like 10 people and it didn't go very well, and then became a Fox News commentator. So he has no defense like expectations whatsoever, so no one was really taking him seriously on this. But then JD Vance came out and said that, and I think a lot of people went, oh okay, now we're really going to have to take this seriously. This has been pretty much reiterated now on this. So the response now really from Europe has really been this emergency NATO conference on, of course, Europe, on Ukraine, really sort of saying, right, okay, we need to look at what's going on with Europe. We need to really think and come together about what we're going to talk about, what our defense priority is going to be. The EU is already trying to advance ideas about, combined defense spending, aligning sort of defense procurement programs on that. You are going to see the UK included in this. If you are going to defend Europe, then absolutely the UK should be involved in this. We are the second largest defense spender in Europe, next to Germany. In terms of armed forces and our numbers, I think we are second, I think, is to France in this. It makes absolute perfect sense to get the UK involved in defense of Europe. We are as much as European as anyone else, and a lot of people are dismissing it, poo-pooing, oh, Brexit, Brexit, Brexit. Brexit does not come into this at one bit. This is about the defense of Europe, a defense of our shared values, defense of our, what if a war breaks out in Europe, this will affect the UK. Yeah, it's not going to have it. We've already seen the consequences of the Ukraine war for this. It affects Europe. It affects all of us. It affects the UK as well. So there needs to be a combined European front on this. And one of the big things is, especially when it's coming to these talks, which at the moment we don't know what's happened. I believe I don't think anything's come out yet, or anyone said anything about these talks that have taken place in Saudi Arabia between Russia and America, between Sergei Lavrov and, of course, I can't remember his name now.
Marco Rubio.
That's it, Marco Rubio. That's it, and Rubio. But that's bizarre, because they've gone in with two completely different diplomatic missions. Rubio's come out and said, I want to basically go in there and see if Russia is serious about these negotiations. Now, if you followed the Russian talking point, or what Russia has been saying about Ukraine for quite some time now, Russia ain't serious. That it has been pretty much consistent with its crazy, insane demands, which is basically Ukraine basically becomes subsistent to Russia. You don't join NATO. We completely, defang your military. We take all this territory, including the territory currently we do not own. There is still talks about occupying non-occupied areas at the moment as well, that they insist on. so much stuff that they are insisting on that it's just basically a complete full capitulation on this. So what's Rubio going to say when Lavrov turns around and says that?
Yeah.
And basically reissues the demands that Putin has been constantly issuing throughout the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Lavrov, on the other hand, is going in to these talks with the stated aim, as what he believes, is that this is going to be the renormalization of relations between Russia and America, which I think he wants sanctions to be lifted. They want to be back on the SWIFT payment system.
They want to come in from the cold.
Yeah. They want all these sanctions that have been put on them removed. But if you remove those sanctions now, you have no leverage whatsoever in any negotiations or any way to enforce any peace treaty that might happen.
Do you think Trump cares about leverage? I mean, that guy will sell Alaska back to the Russians in a second, in a heartbeat, if he got a good deal for it.
I mean, he's already given the leverage away. I mean, Pete Hegseth said, Ukraine has to give up territory. It has to give up NATO membership. That is giving Russia exactly what it wants. That is not how you start a negotiation by giving up your allies' positions. It is, and it should be a complete non-starter on that for 10, completely and absolutely. But they've already given them what they pretty much want on this.
This is
what else they're going to ask
ridiculous. For. Russia is a fucking minnow compared with NATO. NATO could crush Russia tomorrow. A concerted effort to just get Russia out of Ukraine. It could be done. And the fact that we're bending over backwards to this scrawny little bully boy who wants to sit there in the East and pretend that they're bigger than they actually are. They're the Russian bear. No, you're not, mate. Mm-hmm. You fucking bear. You're an emaciated fucking Paddington, mate. You don't present a threat to anybody. Like, they're getting through so many people. Like 1,000 people, is it? Pretty much every week who are dying. Fighting in Ukraine, and they're just being fed into the meat grinder. Putin doesn't give a shit about them or their families or their loved ones or the future of his own country. He's just worried about his own future, which isn't going to look too rosy if he can't get something out of this massive, stupid invasion. Has he admitted it's an invasion yet, or is he still saying it's a special military operation?
No, it's still a special military operation that was meant to last 3 days.
A 3-day operation, a third year into the 3-day operation. But yeah, he's a master strategist, isn't he? But yeah, with Trump's deal, as David Crockett's pointing out, Ukraine loses 40% of its territory.
Yeah, 40% of its territory and 80% of its coastline.
Absolutely unacceptable.
Essentially.
Yeah, 80% of its coastline.
Because they keep on insisting they want to go all the way around to Odessa, which basically means Ukraine has no coastline.
Yeah. Because that's the launching pad.
Vast majority of their coastline or all their coastline.
That's the launching point for invading Moldova. They give them.
Exactly.
Which is clearly they're going to do. They're going to have their own Danzig
that, they will go into Moldova. That is a guarantee.
Yeah.
I think that if you look at
and start killing Moldovans,
I think they'll go into Georgia. If they don't get that corridor, they will go into Georgia next, because at the moment in Georgia there is still, since that general election, ongoing protests about their leadership.
Yeah.
So switching away from Europe, basically doing exactly the exact same thing of what previous Ukraine leaders had done, and what led to things like the Euromaidan, the overthrowing of that then Ukrainian government, which led to the new Ukrainian government, which was a lot more pro-European. That's going on in Georgia now.
Yeah.
If that government now says, okay, well, you're not tied up in Ukraine anymore, come sort out these protesters, because one of the things that the Ukrainian military turned on was when Putin was pushing not only for the Ukraine military to get involved in Euromaidan to put down these protesters, but eventually he said, well, if the Ukraine military aren't going to step in, do you want to borrow my military to step in? And that was the moment where the Ukraine military went,
Yeah.
We ain't following any of your orders.
Chris C has just made a very good point in the chat. We should have honoured the treaty we signed with Ukraine, not just us, but all NATO, at the time, NATO members, the Western Alliance. We signed this treaty with Ukraine in exchange for them giving up all their nuclear weapons. And the idea was that they would not invade Russia and Russia would not invade them. And what did Russia do?
Not just invade.
Should have pushed back hard.
Yeah, it's not just that Russia would not invade Ukraine. It was also that they would not use economic coercion as well.
Yeah.
Which again they have used.
Yeah.
On Ukraine.
And political coercion. I mean, they've interfered in Ukrainian politics for years. And it was only when, we had the what flavor revolution was it? With the Velvet Revolution?
Orange.
The orange, was it the Orange
Revolution? Yeah.
Of 2014 when, they had an election. They elected a candidate. But I guess I just don't know what democracy looks like. It's better that we have some American autocrat come over and he can tell me what democracy really is.
But also going back to that, and going back to Pete Hegseth as well, there was a lot of talk about the fact that Hegseth has rendered the Budapest Memorandum invalid, and that Ukraine should now just get nuclear missiles, and nuclear weapons. And we've talked about this before on this channel. If you do not want, and you're against nuclear proliferation, then things like the Budapest Memorandum, which took away nuclear weapons, reduced them around the world, this sort of sends the complete opposite signal that if you are a small country next to a bigger country, the only way to defend yourself isn't to rely on international orders or know that someone else might come in and help and aid your country. It's if you've got nukes, you aren't going to get invaded. This is
working nukes. As Russia found out when they got invaded and went, not invaded by Ukraine. And the Ukrainians are still there, in the Kursk region of Russia. They're still there. So as a result of the meeting earlier today in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, the Americans did say that Ukraine and Europe would have to be involved in any negotiated peace settlement, which was nice.
What a shock!
Fucking assholes! I hate them. I hate games. I hate people playing games with people's lives, and that's what they are. To all these billionaire oligarchs, it's just a big game to them. They're just laughing about it. So let's move on a little bit because we've got other stuff to talk about, haven't we? We had an emergency conference yesterday for the European Defence Conference emergency meeting, which Keir Starmer was at. He was also at the big banquet they had a couple of weeks ago of EU leaders. Which is fantastic. This is what I want. I want us closer cooperation with Europe. And if there's another sort of little bit of silver lining to all this, if you stand up now and say, hey, we should be pivoting away from our European brothers and sisters and trading more with the US with all these tariffs on the horizon on aluminium and steel and who God knows what else, you'll sound like a mad person. I thought people who said that back in 2016 sounded like mad people because they seemed to think that America was going to ride in on a white horse and save the day. Oh, actually, no, they said the German car companies were going to save the day. Remember that?
Yep.
They want to sell us their cars. They won't do anything mean to us.
Yep.
Anyway, we had a super chat about 10 hours ago from Puninator. You know what it's going to be, don't you?
What is it? Is it? Oh, yeah.
Where's the bowler hat, man? Thank you very much, Puninator. Wants to know where the bowler hat is. And because hats are cool. And one angry pagan.
I'll tell you what I do have, because I forgot to show this on I went on some Scottish adventures not that too long ago, and I've actually got a Iron Brew rock steak.
I love the way they spell it with 2 O's rather than a U, so they can get around the copyright on that. That's pretty cool. Where'd you get that from?
Aberdeen.
Oh, beautiful place. One angry pagan, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. Europe has forgotten that it has teeth and claws too. It has, and that's another thing that's going to come out of this. Europe not just working together, not just UK working with the EU more, fantastic, but also like this might be an opportunity for Europe to restate its place in the world, because we haven't really done that for a long time. I mean, it's been what, since the war, probably
Yeah.
Second World War, when Europe was ripped apart in what was essentially a civil war across Europe, and it's taken us decades to get back on our feet, and it's been quite faltering. In the UK, which apparently won the war, we still had rationing right up until the late 50s into the early 60s. You still had, economic collapse in the 1970s. We had to go to the IMF on our knees in 1975 and ask them for a £2 billion bailout, which at the time was the biggest bailout that a loan that the IMF had ever given anyone. This was £2 billion in 1975, and there's been some, I think it's maybe we got to the point now where it's time for us to get our confidence back and say, no, actually, shut the fuck up and listen to us for a change. Instead of feeling like, oh, we've got to be grateful to the Americans for bailing us out. In two world wars, etc.
That's the best thing that's come out of this. That like this emergency conference, the big response was, we want to be at that table. We want to find out what's going on, because whatever happens in Ukraine is going to affect us as well.
Yeah.
Because we've seen, like I said, there have been reports coming out about, the Kremlin saying, oh yeah, Trump has now given us the green light to expand this war and to strike at European capitals.
Yeah. Yes. And they won't help us. Russia, you do what you like. And it's all very well for America because they're far away from Russia. Russia ain't gonna do shit to them. But to countries in Europe, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Poland, Moldova, Romania, Georgia, I really worry about what Putin might do next. Chris C, thank you very much for the £2 super chat, my friend. Thank you. Europe has been over-reliant on the US since World War II. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I was thinking about this. We talked about this a few days ago. I know more American history and American culture than I do of the history and culture of France. And that's fucking embarrassing. Charlemagne, Louis the 13th, Louis the 14th, Louis the 16th, got his head chopped off. Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot about Bohemian history at the moment. Which is kind of interesting.
Well, but people in it was Bohemia in the Czech Republic.
Czech. Yeah, Czechia.
I don't know fuck all about Czechia.
Oh, it's great. I'm learning lots about like the Hussite wars, the Reformation before the Reformation.
I'd like to know more,
cool.
But they don't make movies about every fucking thing they do. Whereas the Americans go for a shit and they'll make a movie about the fact they went for a shit. Whereas everywhere else in the world, it's kind of like, oh, did we do that? Maybe we'll keep our head down about that. You can't see the Turkish making a film about the Armenian genocide, could you? But America, it's like, oh, should we make another movie about that time we killed all the Native Americans? Let's do that.
Well, the thing
let's
is,
make another Vietnam movie.
The thing is, they do make films about their history. The big problem becomes is those films then don't get shown to an international audience.
Yeah.
Or they very rarely get shown to an international audience.
Yeah, because they're shit, Ollie. Come on, let's face it.
Well,
they're depressing
let's go back to the
and boring and shit. They need more robots, lasers, aliens, and dinosaurs.
There is actually a really good film about
Czechia told through the story of tap dancing dinosaurs on fire with laser beam eyes. Sorry.
But there is a really good film about Jan Žižka. I think I hope I said that right. Probably one of like the big famous sort of heroes of Czech sort of history and sort of folklore, and especially Czech nationalism as well. Because that is massively, a huge topic in itself as well that I'm finding out. There is movies about him, but they've never really left.
No.
like
Well,
Czechia, or
this is
they've been made in Germany and then
yeah,
never really left Germany.
yeah.
Same for France as well. France has made movies about its history, but again, they've never been sort of gone after there. And we talked about this last time about US aid being cancelled, and of course, like the cultural impact.
Mm. And
Because
then there's a golden opportunity
yeah,
for us to just go,
we've had
fuck
this as
yeah.
well.
Actually, do you know what the best continent is? Europe. We win. I'm sorry, we're just better than the others.
Yeah.
We're better. I mean, we're better than North America at the moment. Bloody hell. No offense to Canadian friends of mine or anyone who didn't vote for Trump. Actually, no. People who voted, anyone who didn't vote for Kamala can fuck off, because it's like you either voted for Trump or you didn't think it was something important that you needed to vote for, and that includes children who weren't allowed to vote. I'm not excluding you. Greg, thank you very much for the $2. Always good to get a couple of dollars. It's who's on the $2 bill? Ollie?
The $2 bill.
Yes.
I don't know. I didn't know there was a $2 bill.
Jefferson. I've got one in my I've got on my table here. I've got loads of banknotes and I've got a Jefferson $2 bill. They're quite rare, but they do make them. Greg says, sorry, tariffs on what metals? Get the crumpets out.
Yeah.
Aluminum, and style, because that's how we pronounce it. Alistair Kern, thank you. Alistair, yeah. He's always very generous, Alistair. Thank you very much, Alistair. Hi, Graham. Question for you. Is there going to be a European Defence Pact army to replace NATO? I would think so. Yeah. If Trump pulls the US out of NATO, then it will effectively be that anyway.
Yeah, he's going to have a very hard time actually doing it out of NATO. But as I've said many times, if Article 5 gets triggered, let's say, as we've often talked about, there's a city literally on the border of Estonia and Russia, and the border is a straight line except for this tiny little bump which is around the city. Putin could go, right, I'm going to test Article 5. I'm not going to invade Estonia. I'm just going to say, taking that city. Always remember, Biden would come out and repeated numerous times that every single inch of NATO territory will be protected.
I'm just sorry. I've just got to say, puninator. I was just joking about not blaming the children. I don't blame. Sorry about blaming the children. I don't blame the children. It was just a joke, because obviously they couldn't vote. Sorry, puninator's upset with me because I said the kids. How dare they not vote for Kamala when they couldn't because they were under 18. Sorry, I don't mean to piss off the people watching this. And someone in Canada saying, "Hey, Deborah," she said, "Hey, no, not." So you got to be very careful when you make sweeping things when you're on the left. If you're on the right, you can just say all this shit, get away with it. People like Trump could come out and go, "Oh, farmers are paedophiles," and all the farmers would go, "Yeah," and you'd be like, "Really? You're clapping that? Yeah, we just said it as it is." Fucking hell. Anyway, so yeah, without America, I think Canada will be the only non-European country that is in NATO, and it would make sense for us at that point to expand NATO to include the other Five Eyes nations apart from the US, Australia, and New Zealand, and I think it would make sense to include Japan and some Southeast Asian countries, because there is already a SATO or whatever it's called, the Pacific.
Not OTAN. I can't remember, but there's an Asian
Pacific
nation NATO. I can't remember what it's called.
which stands as a bulwark against Chinese expansionism. But yes, it's Alistair, to answer your question, yeah, absolutely. I think they're going to have a European Defence Force, and they're just going to call it NATO. And then what's his name? That dickhead, Farage, who went, "Do you know, if we stay in Europe, in the EU, they're going to make a European army?" And I was like, "Great, we'll be in the army, right?"
Yeah. Like I say, I don't get what the fear is of like a European army. I think the big thing, if you go back and you look at the arguments, what it was all mainly down to like conscription.
Yeah.
Like if you look back at like some of the old UKIP stuff, and I mean, you look at the old UKIP stuff where it's like Robert Kilroy Silk old UKIP stuff. You have them making arguments like, "Oh, you don't understand. Some like German military officer can can come into the UK and like recruit UK like people right off the street. That was never going to happen, you know. And then if you look now, the last, I believe, the last conscription, I believe, ended for most countries in like the late 1990s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other country that has conscription, at least as far as I'm aware. Oh, Sweden. Sweden does, I believe. Not Sweden, Switzerland.
Israel has conscription.
Oh no, in Europe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think Switzerland has some form of conscription, I believe.
Yeah.
But it's not conscription as we would understand it.
No, because it's a citizen militia basically. I think they're trained to use a gun and that kind of thing, but Switzerland doesn't really have an army.
Yeah, it's not.
It does have a Swiss Army knife.
It is and isn't conscription. Is basically. I'm not 100% sure how it works, but it is and isn't conscription. But that was the argument that was always deployed by the right wing, by UKIP and that at the time, that it'll be conscription, and you'll be conscripted to essentially fight under like French control. And you're like,
Finland
well, hold on,
conscription too, and they have conscription because of the fact they've got a fucking long border with Russia.
Yeah.
Russia, which took a load of Finnish land back in the 1910s, was it, when Russia just fucking invaded Finland? Although that age-old beef between Finland and Russia has been going on for centuries. That dates back to like Peter the Great's time. But I mean that's the future that I see for a defensive alliance. David Lilly's asking about Commonwealth countries, and Paul is asking about the Commonwealth. I don't think that they're in a position where they. I don't know. Maybe.
So actually, that's actually quite a good question. So one of the areas where we could really challenge Russia is by using the Commonwealth.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it is,
and China, I think, as well, by the way, because lots of Chinese influence in a lot of.
This is where again countries. we could have a really good European effort, because we could get together with like France, Belgium, other European countries that
in a sexy way.
Well, not like that. But we could get together with other like European countries who had sort of African colonies, and we could get together to have a look at forming some sort of aid pact or something like that can help develop these countries, because some of these countries have fallen under Russian influence.
Yeah.
Quite significantly. There is a reason why I think it was Mali invited over the Wagner Corps to come and fight in Mali. We've seen these African countries invite these Russian mercenaries, or the Africa Corps, as it's now called.
But that Mali's part of the Francosphere of influence. Francosphere, is that a real word? I don't know. I just made it up. But yeah, there's still. But if we had a European Defence Force and then French used the Francosphere countries in Africa to get involved as associate members. I think that would be a good idea, because it would make those countries feel a little bit more secure in their own borders. And when you've got lunatics like Paul Kagame running around in Rwanda, oh shit, Rwanda's part of the Commonwealth, isn't it? Just got to say about lunatics like Paul Kagame in Rwanda invading his neighbours.
This is why I don't think it's good to get them into a defensive alliance. I think it's more needs to be focused at a practical aid way, because you look at how the Americans pushed back against the Belt and Road Initiative.
Don't use the A word
from China.
Don't use the A word. Investment. That's what we need. That's what they need. That's what they want. Investment. They don't want handouts. They don't want to be reliant on white Westerners coming over and being all fucking the white savior and shit. They just want a little bit of money to start their own business. That's what they need. And you go to these places and talk to people. That's what they want. It's not like they're sitting there waiting for you to come along and bestow loads of fucking money on them. It's not really like that. But yeah, I agree. I think that's something like that, where we've got to start having a serious think about the way the world works, because the UN has broken down. NATO without America is something else.
Well, not really, because did you see China's comments?
No.
So China's comments were easily, I think, the most interesting to come out of this, because
Really?
China, after like the JD Vance and the Hegseth stuff came out, the Chinese ambassador who was there as well came out and spoke and said that, look, Beijing does not consider Europe to be an adversary.
Yeah.
And that we want to make sure that things like the UN and the international world order work. So, yeah, like, oh, well, like, hold on here. There is a good counterbalance now, because because Europe buys a lot of things from China.
Yeah.
Trump wants to sort of punish us for that. But if he's going to punish us for, not buying things from America, or he puts tariffs on things, well, China is there. It might be, on the other side of the world, it might be a longer trade route, but it's something we should consider.
Definitely.
It is something very, very much we should consider.
We've got a couple of messages in. One from Ernie Burns saying EDF is not a good name for it, for the European Defence Force. Clearly, yeah, we'll call it something else. Let's call it the FDE. That's the Fed, isn't it?
I don't think it will be like an official army. I think it will be more under the lines of what we maybe saw like during World War One and World War Two, where you have
NATO.
Yeah, you have like a general, and then you serve under sort of that command. So it's not like British troops will be under like French command, which is again another big fear of the right for some reason, because that happened under World War One and World War Two. Well, especially World War One.
And it can happen with NATO. It can happen at NATO when NATO's deployed. You can have a Belgian commander who tells some Brits or some French or something.
But somehow a European army undermines NATO.
Yeah,
I don't know how it undermines NATO.
Thank you very much to Brad W for the £5 super chat. In the last week, European defence stocks have rocketed, no pun intended, while US stocks have crashed. Talk about a Trump own goal. We're going to see a lot of them, mate. So thank you very much for the super chat, though. I mean, we are going to see a lot of
and that's something else we should be looking at. Like, we've got that potential German defense deal where Krupp potentially opening a factory here in the UK for production of artillery barrels. So that is something good to see, that we have that type of thing going on, because we need more a European defense industry. We need to sort of rebuild that, and countries need to rebuild their own defense industry capacity as well. The Ukraine war has shown that constantly throughout these past 3 years, that we have lost a lot of the military capacity we have. I mean, again, in Czechia, there's literally one artillery factory that has been working four shift pattern rotations, constantly churning out artillery shells 24/7 non-stop for the Ukrainians. And there was only at that time one artillery factory producing those shells in Europe. So kind of an obvious target, shall we say. So you need more factories like that.
Don't give them ideas, Ollie. Shh, cut that bit.
Well, no, this is it. More factories have opened across Europe.
But also, I mean, look, if we don't have to abide by the Geneva Convention anymore because the Russians have decided otherwise, then we don't have to abide by the Geneva Convention. And there's a lot of chemical factories in the UK that make paint and stuff. They can be repurposed pretty fucking easily.
We should stick to the Europe. We should stick to the Geneva Convention. We should stick to them.
I'm just saying. If they say that it doesn't matter anymore, clearly doesn't matter. Alistair saying NATO is the new NATO. Well, North European Treaty Organization. Well, Portugal's been a member of NATO since its inception, so that'll be a bit unfair. So it would have to be ETO, the European Treaty Organization. But then that leaves out Canada. So, it could still be the North Atlantic. Then that leaves out Australia and New Zealand. How are we going to do? What are we going to call it? How about we call it the We Hate Putin Club?
Bit on the nose.
On the nose. Does exactly what it says on the tin. Right, Ollie, we literally have 2 minutes to talk about all the other stuff we wanted to get through tonight. So, Azerbaijan splits with Russia. Quickly, give me 10 seconds.
Quickly. So you may remember, obviously, we've been talking about this region pretty much since we started Geoscope. A couple of months ago now, Russia shut down a plane heading to Azerbaijan.
Yep.
It was full of Azerbaijan nationals.
Yep.
They are very, very upset by this. Russia still refuses to accept responsibility for this, even though everyone knows
it was totally
was them.
Yeah.
This is now leading to a split from Azerbaijan. Once again, meaning that Russia is losing influence in that area, as has been since the invasion of Karabakh. When that started, Russia is losing allies in the Caucasus very, very quickly. So that is good for us, because that means they are now shopping around for more allies. That means they are looking to us to ally with. So that's good for us in the long run on that area.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I mean, it would be nice if, we could have, I don't know, just any country that's moving away from Russia is good. Celine is suggesting NATO could stand for the No America Treaty Organization. Love it, mate. Love it. Let's call it that. Okay, tell me about this monkey.
Oh, yeah. Hang on. This is the fun news story. So we'll do this one last. Yeah, well, I'll do that fun one as last. The other one I want to talk about is it's literally just come out in the past 24 hours that the mineral treaty that America or Donald Trump wants Ukraine to sign has come out, and it basically equates to more money than was asked for by for the Germans in the Versailles Treaty. You were talking $500 billion that they are asking for Ukraine to pay.
That's more money than Ukraine has.
They are going to take control of all of Ukraine's mineral rights legally and in perpetuity, meaning they get permanent control of all the mineral rights in Ukraine. And for some reason, under not US law, New York law, which is weird.
Yeah.
Really weird how it specifically references New York state law. But that's a whole other thing. I've got a video coming about this tomorrow. If you want to go see that, we go more into that tomorrow on my channel.
We'll definitely check that out.
But yeah, so like I say, that's something that definitely needs to be looked at and discussed, because I don't see why. Because at that point, Zelensky's either going to go, well, I can take complete and utter military occupation from Russia, or I am being forced to take complete and absolute economic colonialism from my ally in the US.
Yes.
Just what? Yeah, this is just another reason why Europe is very, very concerned about this, and why it is insisting that it be involved in the talks. So finally, of course, our good news story,
monkey?
The monkey.
The monkey? What did the monkey do?
This is kind of insane. So a monkey basically took down the entire power grid of Sri Lanka.
That is an impressive monkey.
Just one monkey took down the entire power grid of Sri Lanka and left them in the whole 24 hours of
How can the whole power grid go down for the country? I mean, Sri Lanka's not a big country, but it's a good size, It takes you a good few hours to get from one end to the other. Like, how the hell can it... What? Talk about putting all your eggs in one basket, or your electrons in one transformer. I don't know how it works, but yeah, fucking hell. So what happened? Did it get fried? Did it get cooked? What happened? Poor little monkey.
No, the monkey somehow, from what I remember, was basically playing with sticks and short of the transformer, which then took out the entire network.
But was the monkey all right?
Yeah, somehow it's survived.
Brilliant. Another good news story. Well, not really, because, I mean, there might have been children on incubators who didn't make it because it was 24 hours without power. But then again, in the hospitals in Sri Lanka, they do have backup power in case the power goes down, because it does sometimes happen. But, and Sarah says, well, he is the king of the swingers. The jungle VIP. He's reached the top. He had to stop, and that's what's bothering him. And MZ is just putting the monkey and then king emoji. The monkey king. Well done, that monkey. Yeah, I've got fond memories of Sri Lanka. I did spend a few months in Sri Lanka on my journey to every country in the world. But
someone just said that's shocking.
Hey,
hey,
yay! David W saying perhaps it was trying to ape its betters. Andrew Ray says those AI open source apps, including Elon's own Grok, are on our side, are present with criticism of X and Musk himself. Their opinions need to reach more people. Papers in the media. Why no comment? I don't know. I mean, like, I think that the media are playing catch up very much with what is essentially a gish gallop of garbage from Trump and his minions. They'll say one thing one day and then they'll say the complete opposite the next day. They're a bunch of gaslighting gobshites, and this is what they do. This is their game plan. This is, how they get around accountability. But the fact that Elon Musk and his team of weird little virgins have tapped into the records of millions of Americans, their Social Security, their Medicare, Medicaid, their pensions, the VA stuff. I mean, it's just but
it's how long before something goes wrong?
They need to get bigger.
How long before something goes wrong? And it already is going wrong on some things, as far as we know. So
we already seem to have more than the quota of plane crashes that we're supposed to have in a month.
Yeah.
Although that latest one was in Toronto in Canada, so it's not really applicable, but it was an American plane. Maybe it wasn't serviced properly, and they forgot to put the thing on the plane that stops it from flipping upside down when it lands.
Yeah.
Sarah Davis says, some say the monkey was a real bright spark. Enough with the monkey jokes. So, Ollie, two monkeys get in a bath. And one goes, ooh, 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 and the other says, well, put more cold in then.
Oh.
Ba-da-ba-da-ba-bum. Right. Did anyone spank the monkey? Did the monkey get spanked for being a naughty monkey? No.
No.
You would never spank a monkey. Sorry. We're trying to be serious, like Chris is saying. Graham, the light in very, very dark times. Thanks. We're trying to keep a sense of humour. It's the last thing they can take, isn't it? But yeah, I can't see how any of this will work. And like with Brexit, I just couldn't see how it could possibly work. And it hasn't worked. And we will go back into the EU. We just got to be patient.
Yep.
The people who you love most in life, and the people you like hanging out with, see them, hang out with them. Spend time with people while you can. Because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. None of us know what's going to happen tomorrow. John F. Johnson, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. But the message was deleted by Lee Corn, so I don't know what he said. But thanks for the super chat, matey. I think John's our resident troll who likes to pay us money so he can insult us. But I didn't actually get a chance to read the message, so he's just wasted £5, hasn't he? Thanks, John. Don't think it's his real name. Okay. Lee Corn saying thanks for the super chat, troll. See, you can leave a super chat, but we reserve our right to delete what you say if we don't like it. Thank you very much to Lee for doing that, by the way. Ernie Burns says, yes, because Musk sacked hundreds of air safety personnel the day before the Canadian crash. Sounds about right. And Paul says, always funny when the fuckwits give you money and feed the algorithm. Yeah. Indeed. Talking of feeding the algorithm, Ollie. Just one sec. Ollie's sitting there with beta. But I have a new thing that comes up. It says like. Give us a like. Did you see that? It's gone too quick. Oh, it was over so quick. As the actress said to the bishop, give us a like on the way out. Big thanks to Ollie Bowler-Hatman, who is at Bowler-Hatman on this fine platform that we might abandon if someone else can, I don't know, just give us a platform to talk on. It's not American. If anyone's thinking of doing that, that'd be great. Now would be a good time to make a European Twitter, European YouTube, European Facebook, European WhatsApp. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, now would be a good time. Anyway, right. So thanks very much, Ollie. You all right? Are you all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right. Just too many monkey puns.
Too many monkey puns. Poor Ollie. Poor Ollie. Right, gotta go. Gotta finish off watching Cobra Kai. Get the important stuff done. Listen, you take care, Ollie. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to everyone watching. Thanks for all the chats and the super chats, including the one that came from Montreal. And until next time, I'll say thank you so much for watching. I'll be back at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. Fuck that. I'll be back at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning with Morning Boot. We've also got Prime Minister's questions, I think, unless it's half term. And then we'll be doing something in the evening as well. So look out for that. So until next time, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.
Bye.